Welcome, guys, back to the Grateful Living podcast. Today, I'm thankful to have Shawn Heshmatopour with me today. Shawn is a Twitch streamer under the username Sheshn94. He's got 11.3K followers and started the OGY community, which believes that life is limitless and everyone deserves to say, "Oh God, yes." He is also starting life coach certification and a life coaching business soon. Shawn, thank you so much for joining me.
Arnav, thank you. You look great, by the way.
Thank you. You do too.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
For everybody else out there, set the scene, for us, where you grew up, your family situation, and the type of kid you were.
Yeah. So originally, I was born in well, technically, I guess I was born in Concord, Mass. Emerson Hospital, all that
Yep.
good stuff. Lived in Maynard till I was like 4, and then my family moved to Boxborough. Um, just simple, very simple family life, I guess you could say. Just my mother, my father, myself. Um, My family comes from an Iranian background as well. My father is born in Tehran, or excuse me, my father is born in Tabriz. My mother is born in Tehran. So I'm first American born in my family. It's always been pretty interesting. I've never really met too many Iranians, like in just in general in Massachusetts. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah.
it's always you know, it's always interesting, especially like I'm jumping ahead now, but on Twitch, I met like a lot of people from actually who watch my streams from Iran now, which is like really cool as well. But yeah, so that's anyways, going back to my background as a kid, just went to AB just like you know
Hmm.
what I mean? Had quite a lot of experiences there, but a mix of good and bad. But however, though, I will say that everything in our life happens perfectly. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's cool. Um, talk to us about. So, was the Iranian background prevalent in your day to day, or is that sort of more, you know, cultural, like there, but not as much expressed?
Yeah, no, it's expressed to some degree. I mean, like the food's amazing. My parents would cook a lot of good Iranian food. Cello kebab, khoresh, um, God, so many good stuff. Cutlets, like they, a lot of good food. Um, so yeah, I mean, I would eat Iranian food not every day, but at least like, half the week probably, or for the most part, with our meals. Um, my Farsi, which is the language they speak over in Iran, Farsi. Um, I used to be able to speak that pretty well, like when I was like a very little kid, because I used to get babysat by my grandma a lot, and she doesn't know English. So just having that dynamic with her, I want to say I was fluent, but I definitely could speak it well. Now, as I've gone older, my Farsi has gone a lot worse, but it is what it is, though. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like Farsi would be spoken at my household as well. Um, Between like myself and my parents, it's mostly like a mix of Farsi English back and forth.
Yeah. Being an only child and the son of first generation immigrants, um, how was that, assimilation to, regular school society and family and things of that nature?
Oh, like I don't even know where I can get with that one. That's a good question. I like that. So definitely now I'm not sure how much you may be able to relate as well, because I know like through some of my other friends who may be Indian or other parts of the Middle East as well, they can definitely relate on what I've had to say. But my parents were definitely very, grade oriented for sure, like very like much academic oriented. That was very important to them. Another thing that was definitely just there, because it's all just based off generation, the way they were raised, and then they, of course, that gets conditioned on us and all that. um Definitely like a little, and I'm gonna say controlling, but not in a negative way. I love my parents for who they are, but definitely very much like controlling, like the helicopter parent, I guess, to speak. And I think just because I was their only child, they're very protective people naturally. That's just how they are. And of course they wanted the best for me, and they love me, and that was their way of showing their love, or one of the many ways of showing their love for sure. Making sure I have good grades, I'm healthy, and making sure I'm not getting into that much trouble, which we can get into when we get into the high school portion of this podcast. But
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, so that's pretty much really what it was like for sure. And it was also very interesting going into the school system such a young age, just from my vague memory of elementary school, of course, just being able to like, have like these Iranian traditions and all that and viewpoints. And then going to, Blanchard Elementary School. And it's just like, you meet people from other different backgrounds and like their viewpoints are a lot different and all that. And just, I don't know, just I definitely always felt very different right from the get-go going into kindergarten for sure.
Yeah. You mentioned it a little bit, but um, I guess some things happened in high school. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Um, or let's ease our way into it. We can
Yeah.
talk more about like elementary school going into high school. So I felt like at a young age, I was definitely always just, it was just hard for me to feel like belonged anywhere. You know what I mean? I had friends here and there and all that, but I never really felt like I had my own squad. You know what I mean? Like a
Yeah.
lot of other people, cliques is what we called them, back in the day.
Yeah.
And I just never really felt like, I guess I belonged just because of maybe like my viewpoints were different, or maybe just like the ADHD and hyperness. I don't really know what it was. I mean, I never even got diagnosed for ADHD until I was an adult, but um, I definitely got like teased around a lot and pushed around as a kid as well. And going into middle school, there was like, I don't know why, like out of all the years, right? Like now, I don't know what religious background everybody has right over here who is listening to the podcast, but if God did, if God exists, or if you believe in God or anything like that or anything, I don't know why he chose seventh grade for me to have like the worst twitch in the world. Like it was bad, man.
Yeah.
Like I never had a twitch at all growing up. And then seventh grade came around and I'm just like this. And that was like, RJ Gray just going into middle school, meeting all
Yeah.
these new people. And of course I get a fucking twitch, right? So it was like, I'm allowed to swear on here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, so of course, out of like all the years they choose the year where you're transitioning into a new school and while puberty's hitting at the same time, right?
Yeah.
And of course we're just gonna sprinkle a twitch on that guy on top of that just to see how that works out for him.
That's funny.
So I got, so I definitely got made fun of a lot for having a twitch, and I was very, very self-conscious about it. Also, for those of you guys who may see the video version of this this podcast, I'm a very hairy gentleman. That body hair, started to flourish at age like, or excuse not age, but like fourth or fifth grade, 10, 11 years old. I'm like very hairy amongst my peers. It was just another point for me to get picked on as well. You know what I mean? So with that and the twitch and a lot of stuff like that, like I think I was just very conditioned, to be very self-conscious about who I truly am at such a very, very, very young age, without even like realizing it, And I love my parents to death a lot, but at the home life, it was all just about studies, school. There was, I never really learned things about like self-confidence and being true to yourself and all that stuff. And that's just, again, they're amazing people. That's just based off their conditioning as well, right? What they learn, they pass it on.
Not only the parents, but school doesn't teach you about that either.
School doesn't. We can dive into that
Yeah.
way later as well. Yeah, like I can go back and criticize a lot of that stuff, but we can not even criticize. That's the wrong way to put it. But I guess I can talk about my experience from like the counseling and the administration side of the school system later if we want to get into that. But we'll let the conversation play out the way it should be. But going into, yeah, so I guess I just didn't really have too much like damn confidence for myself growing up as a kid, with, like I said, the twitch, the hairy body and whatnot. I used to be wearing, like in middle school, I used to be wearing like long pants to gym class just to cover my hair and all that stuff, which is crazy. We turn this around today. You type in hairiest man in Boston, I'm the first one that shows up on the internet, because with my marketing skills and whatnot, I like to play around with SEO, and I just made that show up. Like I flaunt it now. It's my brand.
Yeah.
It was actually funny because like a couple years ago, my mom was telling me Like Shawn, like, I know you get, like, this is back when I was still underneath my parents' health insurance. And my mother, she shows a lot of her love with money. You know what I mean? There's 5 different love languages. A lot of people show them in different ways, gift giving, acts of services, all that stuff. For my mother, it's very much like gift giving and acts of services. Um that's the way she shows her love for me. So she was telling me, and she's always thinking about my health and all that. And she was telling me, like, Shawn, like, I'll pay if you ever want, like, it gets really hot in the summer and I see you like sweating and all that, and your skin can get irritated sometimes. Like, I'll pay for the laser hair removal if you want for your chest. So she said to me, like, a couple years ago. I'm like, Mom, you can't do that now. This is part of my brand now. Like, I'm
Yeah.
using this to sell myself on Twitch at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm the hairiest man I won't be the hairiest man on Twitch anymore if I get this. So it's like, it's interesting how that just flipped around. And I'll get more into that as we gradually move up in the years of my growth and all that. But yeah, just very self-conscious about all that for sure. Definitely would catch myself getting into like arguments and push arounds and all that stuff in middle school and high school, and I'd have to see a counselor. But I just feel like no matter what the counselors would say to me or anything like that, I just never really felt understood. You know what I mean? I think that was like, or belonged, at such a very young age. So that was like, now we're talking between 7th grade to ninth grade so far, like that kind of era.
Yeah, you've talked about it with the hair, later on, embracing that. I'm curious, if there's somebody out there who's a kid, with a twitch now, was there anything you would say to your 7th grade self dealing with that?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, for everyone's different, right? Like, I never really understood why I had a twitch. So that's another thing too. Like, maybe you could consult a doctor about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing you could go about it. But also, at the end of the day, whether you consult that doctor or not, that's also who you are at that living moment. You are still a living being. This cellular, molecular groups of atoms and neurons, just like everybody else is within you in the classroom, including the teachers. We're all people at the end of the day. We're all one. And it's our ego, our beliefs, and our fears which separates us from one another. And we get put into that in such a very young age. So if I were to go back to my 7th grade self, or just any like middle schooler, because dude, middle schoolers are scary, man. Like, I'm 26 years old. I see a middle schooler walking down the street, I'll still shit my pants, run back to the house, dude. Like, middle schoolers are scary people, dude. I'm telling you, they are.
Yeah.
But if I were to tell them that, though, I would definitely say, like, or if I were to talk to someone in 7th grade or middle school and see if they have a twitch, I can't really say this is all going to blow over because I don't really know what that situation is, but just tell them, like, it's what's in here that really matters, not what's on the outside. You know what I mean? Let them know that, embrace the twitch, essentially. That's the best way I can really would be able to give that advice, is to embrace it, because you are not just your twitch, you are not just your hairy legs, you are not just, for then this goes for anybody with maybe like sort of, what's it called, body dysphoria, I think, or something like that. Is that the word?
Body image issues, yeah, yeah. Things
Yeah,
of that
like,
nature.
it's just like you are more than just that, and in order to naturally improve whatever you may subjectively think is wrong with your body, it starts with loving yourself and being true to yourself. I would tell that person as well, like, hey, even though like you have this twitch and whatnot, like, don't go searching for the friends that you feel like you should be belonged in. Hang out with the people that are going to support you to see past the twitch and are still your boys. Because I still had a couple friends here and there in 7th grade. I still had friends like in middle school, you know what I mean? Even though I got made fun of. And I realized now, looking back, that like my close friends then were the ones who were always kind to me, even though I had a twitch. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
ones who didn't pick on me and all that. The ones who wouldn't call me up and invite me just to make fun of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell them. Like, be like, just observe, be still and observe who you're hanging out with, because we're all one. We bring each other up at the end of the day. And being around people that are picking on you for your twitch, those aren't people you want to surround yourselves with.
Yeah.
Those aren't people who are going to serve your future and serve your life. Um, Now, but I don't even know like how a seventh grader would even perceive that now, because I remember like there was one day in like seventh and eighth grade, I was like very, very like um sad about like how like bullied I was that day. And then one of my friends was telling me just like, well, think about it this way. Like they're not gonna probably make it all that well in life, and you're a smart kid, you will. And that doesn't really help either. And he said it out of the kindness of his heart. You know what I mean? He's that to be a friend, but that doesn't really help either because now you're putting down another group in order to make yourself feel more confident and comfortable now, right? You're not building your own blocks when you're saying, well, fuck them. They're gonna end up like homeless when they're older and you're not. It just that doesn't really matter because right here, right now, that's not going to change the scenario. So it always has to come from within, from with you, without the ego pushing off the bully or the person bullying or the person being a dickhead, however you want to word it. Like, however that person treats you, you know what I mean? Comparing like, oh, where they're going to be in life versus you, I would say does not help. And it shouldn't be internalized that way because then you're putting it back on them. You know what I mean? You're putting the main focus on them rather than just yourself and your own healing.
Yeah. Cool. Um. So yeah,
I
you were.
answered the question though, right? For the most part,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I ramble a lot, so
No, no, you're good. You're good. So you were getting into high school. At the end of what you were talking about, do you want to just talk about whatever about high school that you wanted to?
yeah. So ninth grade was interesting. It was an exciting year. Um, I had some friends again from eighth grade that came, that I still hung out with and whatnot. I had a really, really good friend in ninth grade as well, and unfortunately, he had some issues to say the least, and then he had to leave the school due to mental health issues and whatnot. And he was someone I was very close with and very much loved hanging around and whatnot. And he introduced me to some other people as well in ninth grade, who I then started to become friends with. And that's sort of, what forms like a lot of the group that I, graduated with, and made a lot of friends throughout the way and in high school. And then, well, I say friends very loosely because I had friends that always had my back, were always there for me. And then I had friends that were just my friends who would be in that. Because I guess I'm trying to like, how do I structure this? I guess our group was really interesting throughout high school because we had like, it was just a mix of a lot of different groups. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just trying to like word this in the best I can without like name dropping or like generalizing people because that's not what I'm here to do. But it was just like the groups was just like it was a bunch of different people, you know what I mean? And some of them were good and some of them were not, like they didn't treat me well and bullied me a lot and it tore down my self-confidence or were controlling or manipulative towards me. And then there was others who were always having my back, always letting me feel, I guess you could say, just safe for being my full self when I'm around them. Um, so like as individuals, some of them were good, bad, whatnot, or whatever even good, bad even means. That's all even subjective at the end of the day. But yeah, it was just kind of like that whole group mentality where I still felt like, again, we're going back to what I was saying before in elementary school, middle school, where I didn't belong.
Yeah, yeah. Um, do you then want to get into, the major college topic?
We can still stick in high school for a little
Okay.
bit more, I guess.
All right.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about high school a bit. So it was interesting high school. Like I definitely like I said again, had friends who were always there for me, and then friends that were told me they were there for me, but they wouldn't actually show up by bullying or by, doing stupid stuff to me when they were drunk or when we were all getting drunk together and stuff like that. Or trying to initiate fights between me and other people in the group, and overall just very toxic, and just very an unsafe environment. I was very, very like, I'm not gonna say dumb because I'm not gonna be hard on myself here, but I was very, very unaware and very conditioned by my external environment over validation. At the end of the day, that's what it was. I just wanted to be validated and hang out with the cool guys at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, not to say there was like, wasn't some, there wasn't all awful times, but if I look back at it, I just, I get a yucky feeling in my body when I think about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it gets bad. Like, there'd be like, it would get toxic in that group, like from people just like poking fun at me from my chest hair to like even one individual is telling me that he, like when he would get enraged, that he would beat the crap out of me and rape my mom one day. Like that's how bad it was,
Yeah.
in the group that I hung out with. And that's not everybody in that group, but that was, like how like, I was constantly just like nervous, but didn't have the willpower to ever want to leave that group because, again, it was just the wanting to prove myself, which I'm learning. We can talk about this through my own self-discovery journey that I'm going with my coach right now. That's a huge part of, I guess, like the way I am and what lessons I need to learn because of that. And the feeling to prove myself and all that. So, yeah, I mean, it was just definitely not a very, very good environment as a whole to be around. It was just a very toxic environment to say the least. And I just felt like I just sort of had to like just be a clown and be funny and all that just to feel sort of accepted, in that whole, because back then when you're in high school, you just think that like you have to belong somewhere or else you're fucked. Like that's the group, that's the mentality in high school, which really in reality, like it's not. And I'm sure that I got advice here and there from counselors, like telling me something along those lines or something like that. But you can't communicate that in the same intellectual level to a 16-year-old versus like a 30-year-old. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna perceive it a lot differently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like I feel like I was just very conditioned at the time to just be a very like, I'm not gonna say a toxic person because that's not who I was by any means. I was a very nice guy. But to be around a lot of people that were toxic that would influence my behavior, which for example, one of the things I got suspended for in high school was throwing a piss bottle into a classroom. And then like everybody knew about that. You know what I mean? It was just like stuff like that that was just like very stupid and attention seeking because I just, again, just wanted to feel belonged. And I'm sure people saw that, whether it was intentionally or unintentionally, and used it for their own benefit, for their own insecurities that they were fighting off with me. Um,
Sean,
and
what
that,
would you say then though? Like if you could go back, what would you say to your 14 to 18-year-old self? Or if there's someone out there right now that is that person like you were, um, what would you tell them?
what would I tell them? That's so interesting though. Like, because I don't know if they would accept it depending on their stubbornness levels. Cause I was very stubborn. I still am like stubborn to some degree. Like, I've grown out of some of my stubbornness, but I'm very persistent, I guess you could say, with when I want something. But for them, like if I were to sit them down and have a conversation, I would just tell them that like, hey, this is not like hanging out with these people will hurt you for a while internally. Even if you're gone from them, you leave them, you know what I mean? um Even if you move across the state from them after high school or anything, across the country, different country, whatever. It's the mental conditioning that toxicity gets put in your head that then you allow to believe about yourself, and that goes into the adulthood. So what I would tell them is it's like, these aren't people who are going to bring you up. These aren't good friends. And these are people who are just not, I'm trying to like find the right word without trying to like sound like a victim or anything. These are the right people, or these are the types of people that are just not conscious yet of their own behaviors and haven't just reached their own levels of peace or self-confidence yet. That's why it's being projected on on you, and you need to be around people who are going to lift you up.
Yeah. As you look back at your journey, is there a moment or event where you're like, that should have been, you know, the event that should have changed me, or like that should have been the one where I was like, the awareness that you have now, was it, was there an event that happened where you were like, maybe that should have made me reflect more on what I was doing, who I was surrounding
What do you
myself
mean?
with? In terms of like, maybe just, you know, was there a suspension or something like that where you were like, now as you look back, are you like, man, that probably should have made me change my actions, but for some reason it didn't?
I think it was multiple events. It was definitely the ways I was treated at like some parties for sure, like after, at night after school and whatnot. There was a group of friends that lived in right in Boxborough as well that I would hang out with, and they were always like the ones that were kind to me and would treat me right and would never like backstab me, and had my back. And those are the ones that are still my friends today. And then there was the friends that I had in that greater group as well that would, try to get me to get into a fight while I was drunk, or try to get me overly drunk, or would spit in a shot glass and give it to me or whatever. Or there was another one as well in the group that I'm not trying to point out names and stuff, but essentially like one of them tried to like take money from my parents as well because they were addicted to drugs. It was, if I were to go back in time and go back to high school, I would say just listen, like these are the people that are going to be your friends for life or for a very long time, and these are the people that you need to get away from now for your own physical health and for your mental health. And luckily I found that out on my own along the way, and the friends in that group that treated me right are still my friends today, and they're one of my best friends in the whole world. So one of many of my best friends in the whole world. So yeah, very grateful for them.
Yeah. um do you now want to talk about college?
Yeah, we could talk about college.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? I guess like what school I went to, where the transfer process.
Whatever that, obviously I mean, I know some things, but I don't want, whatever you
Yeah,
feel comfortable talking about.
yeah, of course. So, just based off of the whole, I guess you could say that, what was it, like a 98, 97% turn rate of students go to college and from AB, something like
Yeah,
that. I
yeah,
think at
yeah,
the
it's
time
high.
back in 2013. Yeah, it's really high.
Yeah.
And I still had good grades for the amount that I partied and got in trouble and did stuff. I still got good grades, like I was capable of going to college. So, I didn't exactly know what I wanted to study at the time. I know I liked people, but I was also, now this is back in 2013, right? Or 2012 when we start looking for colleges. And back then, psychology sort of had not like a stigma, I guess you could say, right? It's going into the psych field. Definitely, I feel like it was definitely very perceived, at least from my experience of exploring different majors, that it would be a lot more of a risk compared to like going into business or engineering, or you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so I knew I always liked people. Um, but at the same time, I just knew I wanted to make money after. This is, I also think I'm like 17, 18 at the time as well. So like I just want to make, I don't know, I just want to make money, I guess, after college. That's just, I didn't really know exactly what it is I wanted to do. So I applied for universities and all that. And, I just had an idea in mind that business would be the route I'd be taking. And then, like business runs not in my immediate family, but like the generation before them, they're all like, both my grandfathers were both business owners and all that. Most of my family were all engineers. Like I'm talking like my uncle, a lot of my uncles and all that. And, engineers are very, very like popular in Iran. Like that's huge over there, so especially with that generation before us of Iranians, very, very engineer oriented like people. But I couldn't get myself into engineering. Like I just like, I'm not like disgusted by it, I would say, but like I just couldn't get myself like involved in it. Like back in the day when I was a kid, playing Legos with my dad, he would end up taking over the Lego set, and I'll be looking at the cool little covers on the on the box art. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just couldn't, I just couldn't get myself involved with engineering. So that was like pretty much the debate between one of those two, just engineering or business. I ended up going business. I ended up going with business. Um, and after choosing between schools and whatnot, I got accepted an offer to a few universities. I ended up choosing Bryant University, um, which was located over in Lincoln, Rhode Island. It's a small business school. It's one of the three Bs, and I know you're familiar with Babson, so
Yeah.
there's Babson, Bryant, Bentley. Yep. So I went to Bryant and made some good friends there. Had a lot of fun. I got decent grades there too, but definitely a lot of fun. That's where like the partying really, really took off over there for me, like on unhealthy amounts. Like I was definitely like, on the week, like, I'd be drinking during the week. You know what I mean? Um, I wouldn't really like, no, I wouldn't go to class drunk ever, but I definitely go to class hungover like a bunch for sure. I was definitely just quote unquote living my best life. You know what I mean? But not
Yeah.
really at the time. Not really. But I thought it was living my best life over at Bryant. Just having fun, making new friends, making friends with people who would uplift me, not to fucking tear me down. Like that was like the first time I've ever been in an environment where it was only friends that would uplift me, and that's it. I didn't have to go hang out with the small, like a different group or subcategory of the group or whatever you want to call it, that would be my friends or whatever. And then when we'd all hang out together in big groups, I know I'd get picked on or the butt end of the jokes. It wasn't like that over at Bryant. I had friends. I had people who talked to me, who could have conversations that hit below the surface level with me, connect with. You know what I'm saying? Like I had true friendships there. Um, a few of them still one of my best friends as well to here today. Like I love them. I'm really grateful for them as well. And yeah, like it was just a lot. Like it just, like, maybe just because it was freshman year vibes, like most colleges, like everyone was just so happy and just partying and just getting to know one another and all that. And yeah, I guess I just went overboard with it. So in high school, I definitely like did some drugs and stuff like that as well. In fact, actually, if you want to relay back to high school, last day of school, not graduation, but I wasn't able to walk at the AB graduation, ABRHS graduation, because I got arrested for having pot and booze in my car over at senior lot, which was, for those who are listening who aren't familiar with the high school, senior lot was just a parking lot where the seniors would park in, and a lot of people would get drunk and high. I don't know why that was like smart decision I don't know why that was the spot out of all places. Right. Like
Yeah.
I used to talk to people like at Brian and be like, where would you and your friends go to like hang out when there wasn't anywhere to go? But like, yeah, we'd go to like a CVS parking lot or a Kmart parking lot or a field. Where would you go, Sean? I mean, we'd go to the parking lot at the high school and they'd be like, God, like you guys are like, what the fuck? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. We were all a bunch of idiots back then. But anyways, so I guess I was just very involved in like that party scene, I guess you could say the least. You know what I mean? From like, booze, weed, Xanax, opiates, you know what I mean? Like cocaine. I was having a lot of fun at Bryant. And I guess like I had some moments over there that were kind of like, I guess you could say like where I could tell like I was validation seeking, even though I already had it within, because it was just so deeply conditioned in my mind to need to like prove myself to be funny and all that. Um, so I still just felt like, even though I had friends at this point, because now it's like, even though I have friends and all that, I still just didn't feel like belonged. I still didn't truly love who I was as a person or anything like that. Um, and I guess like the partying was an escape for that for sure. Like I was hiding some sort of depression or something, or just masking off some sort of depression that already existed within. Um, yeah. And then let me see anything else I missed. Oh, well, I definitely had friends also at Bryant that would just lift me up. You know what I mean? Especially with dating. Like I was very, very self-conscious about dating in high school. As you could tell why a lot of people would always tear me down and whatnot whenever I was talking to a girl or something like that. So just being in an environment as well where people were bringing me up and all this stuff, I would still just be like, just terrified of dating or some stuff like that. You know what I mean? But I was getting better. I was improving. The improvement was there to some degree in the social skills. It's just when I was like, even like just drinking a lot and doing drugs is when like I was just a completely different animal. And all I was doing was just like numbing out like just my internal suffering, essentially. That's what I was doing, like I wasn't aware of it at the time, but now looking back and just seeing how my body works now and all that, like that's all I was doing with all the partying. And like I said, I still got decent grades too somehow, probably because that was just so ingrained with me at such a young age to get good grades. And then that was one full year of Bryant, and then sophomore year comes around, and then I'm long story short, I got falsely accused of rape. And from then on, that was the big, like a huge turning point that's probably one of the biggest negative turning points in my life. But I say negative. Now I'm looking back at it, I'm so grateful that experience happened. Like I'm really happy about it. And we'll get into the reason why. It was awful though. Like it was on I think it was on a Friday night going into a Saturday. So the issue was with that. So typically, when you get arrested for something, they'll just take you to, they get a, what's it called? You get a bail and then you go to court the next day, right? But since this was on a weekend, there's no court open on Sunday. So what actually ended up happening was they actually took me over to the, what's it called? The Rhode Island. Rhode Island is such a small state, so they only have one big area for like jails and prisons and all that. So when they took me from and I was scared shitless out of my mind. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is not the person I am. Like, am I gonna get fucked over this? Especially with like everything going on with the culture right now, it's very easy just to like snap at someone as soon as they even hear a headline that someone did something, even if it could have just been like a bad sexual experience, sort of like the Aziz Ansari incident. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one. But
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, I was just like, scared at that point. I was very scared for something I didn't do. And it was awful. You know what I mean? Just that feeling, and just, oh my God, that feeling of having to call my parents on the phone in like a cell of like the police station and tell them that was just, yeah, like very heartbreaking, it was awful. And they were very, very supportive throughout all of it. You know what I mean? They didn't yell, nothing like that. So anyways, they said like, hey, we're gonna find you a lawyer, and we'll see you soon, I guess, whenever we see you next. So, which is very, very probably a scary thing on their end to say to their kid. So since, like I said, court doesn't open till Monday, and I got arrested on a Friday night going into a Saturday, I actually ended up having to get transferred into a jail, essentially, to hold me. So that the whole thing, just like you see on TV, you know what I mean? Like, you get in there, they get you ass naked, they check you out, they put on like these robes and stuff that you had to wear, and I had to go sit down with a cellmate. And I was scared shitless, you know what I mean? Because I'm here like 20-year-old, had a decent life at AB with all these other people in a jail, in like a jail environment. And I was scared. And I remember I looked in, I'm like, oh, I have a roommate. And then I asked the security guard, like, is this safe? And she just looked at me and goes, I don't care if it's safe. You're going in there. And I'm just like, all right. So I went in there. Luckily, my roommate was safe, or my cellmate was safe. Luckily, he was just kind of like he was an interesting guy. He was just in there for like some other personal stuff, and he was just waiting for his time to get out. And, luckily he didn't really have any problems with me or anything like that. We talked back and forth a little bit. But I was definitely nervous as hell, and he was telling me like, man, like, because this is also the weekend all before Thanksgiving, by the way. So this is like, so this is all like the Sunday before Thanksgiving. So it's even like even more on the table as well. And that cellmate, even though he was, I guess he's like nice for what I saw from him, he was telling me stuff like, dude, I mean, that's a pretty serious thing you got charged with. Like, I'll tell you this right now, you'll be lucky if you see your parents for Christmas, maybe. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm just like, I wasn't even freaking out at that point. I'm just taking it all in. You know what I mean? I'm still like, I still couldn't even like digest everything that's going on right now in this moment. And then finally, I mean, the next day, they which was Monday morning, I slept in there, and then Monday morning, um, they took me to court. And then after that, you know what I mean? They had me on like pre-trial probation, which is pretty much like, all right, so up until this gets resolved, you just have to come into the court office and check with like a probation officer every few months and make sure you're getting therapy and all that. The case ended up being expunged, just like that. Like the other party decided the other party didn't want to fight it. I'm not going to get into details of what happened or anything like that, but essentially it was a mutually bad sexual experience amongst two people, and that ended up for some reason turning her to call the cops, which is why I got falsely accused of rape. Um, but yeah, it would definitely sucked when I got my phone back later, because I got my phone back like a few days later, because they from the jail they mail you back all your belongings. And I go on Facebook and it's all just, it's all I see now, like multiple tags with my name on it from the community I grew up in, calling me a rapist, saying, oh, Hesh is a piece of shit, fuck him, death threats on my fucking voicemail from people. It was scary. Like, I was just sitting there for a crime I didn't even do. You know what I mean? Like, even one of like the local drug dealers in town like messaged me on Facebook, and he was even telling me as well, like, man, you'll be lucky if you even get a McDonald's job at all, like in your life. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm at like an all-time low right now. Like, I just had the local drug dealer in my hometown tell me I can't even get a job at McDonald's right now. You know what I mean? Like, shit. Like, I just didn't know how to comprehend it all. I didn't know how to digest it all. I didn't even know how to feel like half like the negative feelings I was feeling. Like, I was in a very, very dark space of my life. I'm actually really glad we're talking about this right now, because I feel like it's good for me to like face this stuff. Like, I do tend to resist a lot. Yeah, this is good for me just to talk about it. But let's get all the dark stuff away for a minute, because with all that, there is also the good, right? You can't have suffering without love. So with that, there was also, my friends who reached out, both from Bryant, both from AB, who reached out, like freaking out. Some of them were even crying. Some of them were telling me immediately, like, dude, are you okay? What's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm scared. Are you all right? You know what I mean? And when I saw like the Facebook post of all that negativity versus those personal texts, like, that brought so much life into me. And I'm like, I learned a valuable lesson when I came home from jail that week, and it was, who your friends truly are and who they're not. Like, that's when I knew, not everybody is your friend just because you may have seen them at a party or a diner or whatever a few times before, or library and class, whatever. The people who are truly your friends are the ones who will stick by you no matter what, because they know who you are on the inside, and they know your character as a person. One of my friends, even like, he felt really bad. Since it was Thanksgiving week, we actually had, some friends were over around that time, right, visiting their families at AB and all that. One of them stopped by, and he gave me his Nintendo 3DS just to keep myself a little occupied while he was in school. You know what I mean? And and I was so depressed at that point. Like, I don't even know how I did Thanksgiving. Like, did I even do Thanksgiving? No, I showed up for Thanksgiving. I did. I just, was very dead and cold on the inside. I think I barely touched my turkey, I remember, during all this. But yeah, like, so, there was that. And then, yeah, I was just in a really heavy depression at that point. Like, literally all I did was just wake up every morning, turn my head a little bit, realize like, fuck, I don't really have anything to wake up for. And I would just like turn around. I can't go on Facebook because all I'm going to see is hate and death threats on my phone or whatnot. I'm going to like reject every fucking like restricted call that comes on my phone of someone harassing me. So what would I do? I just would turn my head around and I would just like pick up the Nintendo DS my friend gave me and I would just like get lost in Super Mario 3D lands. Just laying in bed like for half the day, you know what I mean? I would just be playing a shitload of Super Mario 3D lands on the Nintendo 3DS. Um
Yeah.
and it was just like that was just my way of coping for a little while. Like I just couldn't like do anything. Like it was awful. And then is there any questions you have right now,
Yeah,
by the way,
yeah. I
before we go?
mean,
Yeah,
so
because
it's
yeah, this is a good
interesting.
spot for questions. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's I mean, so um, you know, do you have anything to say about the way universities handle it? And were you expelled in a pretty short amount of time, or what? Well, I actually don't know the details of.
Yeah, I don't want to get too political, but
Okay.
hey, I mean, but it also is part of the reality of the time too. Like I don't really lean like left or right, you know what I mean? I'm very moderate politically, so I don't really mind sharing my opinion on this. So back during that time, so this was 2014, under the Obama administration, there was a rule that was passed saying that if any university a weren't to bring any some sort of like information to the police, because originally the person called the campus police. They didn't call the police directly, but due to that strict rule and on the administration that any report to the campus police must go directly to the police, and if they find out, your school will get defunded. So because of that rule, I get it from the school's perspective. Because of that rule as well, Bryant technically, like on paper, had to, so they wouldn't lose probably funding from, even if as a private university, funding from, federal government or state or what, probably federal government or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how that works between private universities and the government, but under the Obama administration, that was one of the rules that they put out there, that it has to become a legal thing immediately. It can't be handled within the university, which I could also understand as well, because every case by case is different. You know what I mean? It's just, that's just where the rules were at that time when this stuff happened to me, unfortunately. I felt like I definitely wasn't heard all that well. However, though, since I did have a small like write-ups in university from freshman year for some of the trouble I would get into for drinking and all that, that definitely didn't help in my favor during the campus hearing, for sure. I take full responsibility for the drinking and all that stupid shit. You know what I mean? That I did freshman year. So it's like there was that, but then there was also like a lot of, and I'm not going to get graphic into what went down that night, but there was a lot of stuff that the other party said during the hearing that didn't really make sense, which was also then used again in court, which is what helps, my record is clear as a whistle right now, because they knew essentially that this was all just not a rape situation. You know what I mean? But essentially just the way they handled it was, it was very biased, which is pretty crazy because, like Bryant has some of like the best lacrosse, I think, during that time. They're really well known for their lacrosse, and they're coached by someone who I think was in UConn who also got falsely accused of rape or actually had a rape incident or something like that. And that's, you know what I mean? So Bryant definitely just went for their best own interest rather than the students' interest, for sure, because it's like, I'm no different than the lacrosse coach, except the value that the lacrosse coach brings to the table there is that he can make the lacrosse team better, even though he has controversy back. I think it was UConn, I want to believe. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it was actually UConn, but he's a very, very good lacrosse coach for a university, and somewhere in Connecticut. I want to say UConn. Went over to Bryant, with all these. So it's like the same sort of controversy at the end of the day. But at the end of the day, they went with their own interests. If you understand what I'm putting down.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, like the university went underneath their own interests rather than the students. And that can be up for debate depending on where you stand. And that's a very tricky one. Like, even like, I can't go in here and just be like, yeah, well, Bryant should have done this and that, because that would be unfair of me. You know what I mean? Of how that private university wants to operate their business. That would be unfair of me to really go at it. But what I can say is um the feeling of being villainized and demonized is one of the worst feelings that you can get in the entire world, being canceled like that. Especially at such a very young age as well, being outed by my own community that from my hometown, outed from parts of the community at Bryant. It was very heartbreaking, you know? And sure, like it's all whoopty daisy, right? Oh, well, whoopty dandy, whoopty daisy, whatever you want to call it. It's all amazing that my record got expunged, right? So what? My record got expunged, but that you can clean my record for any sort of false crime I got accused of. Nothing will ever scar an individual the most here in the heart than the emotional damage that it brought and all the articles, the news, you know what I'm saying? The way they write you out in the papers for stuff like that. The way then social media takes that on and says, oh, well, Hesh is a piece of shit. What a scumbag. Like, fuck him. You know what I mean? The fucking, the death threats on my phone. My family just feeling like very awkward going out in public, going grocery shopping, even like at AB, like the damage it put, you know, like the amount of stress it put on my poor mother. You know, that's the things people don't really think about when they see someone who is under a and not just me, like celebrities or people in general, and other people in communities who get caught up in these controversial issues. They don't really think about that before they jump to deciding to let's cancel him now. You know, it's innocent before, it's innocent till proven guilty at the end of the day, but not when you have people who are very group minded and very conditioned to believe things as they see it in the moment,
Yeah, yeah. Um, you know, just hearing that story, I you know, it, how did you recover? And what were the steps going forward? And
Yeah. No, yeah, that was the dark. I'm glad we got the dark stuff out.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
glad we
yeah,
got the dark stuff out because this is where the show is gonna get a lot more uplifting now. This is where, yeah. Um, so the recovery journey was wow. So where did it start? I mean, I ended up taking some classes at I knew I had to get off my ass and do something now, going back to me waking up and playing video games in my bed and just kind of bumming around the house. I did that for like until Christmas, I think, or something like that, until Christmas time, roughly. And then I decided just to take some classes at UMass Lowell. I didn't really want to enroll into a program, but I kind of just knew what class I had to take next. That would be towards my degree. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, I'm like, I'm still getting my degree. So I decided to go with that for about a couple. I think I did a spring semester in 2015, and then like one of those intermediate, like half winter summer semesters or something like that. And then by fall 2015, I went to I then officially enrolled into SNHU, got my credits transferred from Bryant over there, and some of the classes from UMass Lowell got transferred to SNHU, Southern New Hampshire University, by the way. And it was actually, one thing that actually helped in that interview process when I was getting interviewed to go to SNHU, because I was very nervous and all this stuff. And like, even my lawyer was like advising me, like, maybe you should just tell them, like, this is what happened, so it doesn't look like you're lying your application for behavior and stuff. So at the end of the interview, after they asked me everything, I just brought up something and I was just like, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know, like, I got falsely accused. It's all getting worked on, it's getting done with and whatnot, but I just wanted to bring that over to the table. And the lady literally looks at me and goes, yeah, that's all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't judge who you are as a student and how you're going to excel in our program. And, I'm very sorry that happened to you. And yeah, I just, we shook hands. I said goodbye and I started tearing up like on my way back to the car, man. Cause I was just like, fuck, like people out there do actually have good hearts. You know what I mean?
yeah.
People out there actually see past that. And this is a complete stranger. This is someone who just interviewing me for SNHU. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really wish I could remember her name and then like thank her for it one day. You know what I mean? I don't know. But like that right there was was amazing just to hear that, from someone besides just myself for once, and my friends as well. It felt good hearing that from somebody in that academic standing, I guess you could say, because all in my head, I'm just putting pressure on myself. I was putting pressure on myself, like, oh, like I'm fucked for life because of this. Everything's gonna go downhill because of this. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna have no future because of this. Like I never thought about it like that. Like, oh, wait a minute. Like, wait a minute. People actually do have like a heart. Like that's something interesting. I never even thought about that before.
Yeah, yeah,
So that was good. That was definitely one. So getting back into school again, working towards my degree towards marketing, that was healing for me. It gave me something to do. I was doing classes from home, which I really enjoyed. And then when I was, so this is around the time I was doing classes. And so rewind a little bit now. So that's fall 2015. Rewind to summer of 2015, or spring of 2015, even. Another thing that got me, I guess you could say, that was like, therapeutic for me, I guess you could say, was I got into a game called Guild Wars 2. It's like an MMORPG, sort of like World of Warcraft, one of those kind of games.
yeah,
And I would just binge that game a lot when I wasn't doing like schoolwork and all that, since all my friends were at college out of state and all that. So I just figured it'd be healthier for me to just like stay in and just focus on myself. And I learned a lot about myself over those next 4 years, which we'll get into, because how else are you going to learn more about yourself if you're just alone a lot of the times, right?
yeah,
So Guild Wars 2 helped a lot, just being, because just feeling like I'm accomplishing something in a video game while I'm still healing and recovering from all of like this trauma and crap that would happen. And on top of that as well, it just gave me a form of a place where I could feel confidently social, because I didn't feel confidently social as myself, Shawn Heshmatopour, going out. It's not like I was just sitting home at Boxborough and just be like, well, I'm gonna go swipe on Tinder and meet some people at like a bar or something like that. No, like none of that. Like that stuff terrified me at that point in my life. Like the only people I really felt safe around were my parents, my friends, and then whoever I spoke with in video games. That's the only people I felt safe around. And since again, a lot of my friends were in college and university, I would only really see them on holidays or occasionally weekends where I'd visit them, or they'd, be in town and we'd hang out. But other than that, though, I'd just be playing a lot of Guild Wars 2. And I saw an ad for one of the expansion packs for Guild Wars 2 that day. And it was like, oh, like a new expansion pack's coming out soon. If you want to see some like some cool features that we're putting out, we're going to be streaming it live on Twitch TV, twitch.tv. I was curious, like, what is this site? So I watched their little reveal of the expansion. And then after that, I was just like, well, I'm picking up gaming again a lot more. I always played video games on and off growing up, like as a kid and whatnot, but I was picking it up a lot more heavier at this time, just due to the fact that I was alone and everything. So I then just started browsing through Twitch and just chatting in random people's like live streams while they play video games. I would ask them questions about the games. And they were just like really friendly and like welcoming, you know what I mean? They were just like, yeah, sure. Like, you know what I mean? Like we can game, we can play some Call of Duty, we can play this together.
yeah,
And then like some of them were really funny as well. And they would just like cheer me up on days where I was just battling like heavy fucking depression and all this stuff. And they were just there, they were just there hanging out. And then I was just like, you know what? Like I kind of want to start something like this. I think this would be really cool. So with, I got myself a PS4 that had like Twitch integrated to like the system. Like that's how the PS4 consoles were made. And I just used like a really crappy microphone at the time. And I just was playing games. I actually played games with one of my hometown friends as well. He would come in and we'd play together. And then, I'd have like a little laptop on the side with the chat room. And I would just be like hanging out with my friends, shooting the shit, playing either Call of Duty or Elder Scrolls Online or Battlefield. And we would have people pop into the chat and start talking to us as well. And that was the beginning of it. I just fell in love with just connecting with people while playing video games at that time. That was really just what it was. I didn't really have any major goals or ambitions at the time or anything like that to make something big out of it. It was just strictly just for healing. That's what it was. for healing, and for giving me something to do while I was focusing on my studies at SNHU. So that's what I was doing a bit.
Yeah.
I then luckily was able to pick up an internship as well from one of the professors that I was working with at UMass Lowell. So I also was now learning a lot more about marketing and all that good stuff. So, she was running like her own small business for companies to go outsource like SEO, web design, social media marketing, email newsletters, and all that stuff. Stuff that's to do with algorithms. So that was pretty much, I was a paid intern there. So it was a nice little side money for there. It was part-time while I was in school. And then, yeah, and then also streaming as well. So I learned a lot of like cool marketing skills and SEO skills and social media marketing skills from that internship, along with my marketing courses as well and my business courses over at SNHU. And then, yeah, from there I just started building my brand. And that's when I really started to feel like I had a purpose again. That's when I started to feel like I was belonging again. I was making friends online. I was putting on shows, making people laugh and all that stuff, playing games. Um, is there any more questions, by the way, before we
Yeah,
continue
yeah.
with this?
For someone starting
Cool.
out, obviously you've built up quite a following, but what would advice would you give to them?
For Twitch or for anything, like any sort of content?
For Twitch and yeah, or any content.
So in the beginning, don't heavily treat it like a job in the very, very beginning when it comes to content creation. Do it because you love it, because you're having fun doing it. Um, because that's how I started doing it. I didn't go in with any sort of intention of trying to like grow or anything like that. I mean, yes, of course I wanted to grow, but I went in there because I wanted to socialize, meet people, and have fun. You know what I mean? That's why I didn't start getting more expensive equipment till now. When I first started, like I said, it was just like a little crappy mic hooked up to my ear and then the PlayStation console. And then I bought myself like a really crappy computer that could just barely stream the console stuff I was streaming. You know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah.
like, have fun with it. Like, have fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you'll know once you do it over and over and over again, and you get your you'll know if you're liking it or not. It'll feel good to you when you're doing it, when you're thinking about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um yeah, and so I guess, what do you where are you now with your Twitch community and where do you hope to go?
Yeah. So that alone is another journey. If you want me to share that, I don't know
Yeah.
how much time do we have. By the way, is there a time limit or
No, I mean,
no?
I try to keep it within an hour and a half, but yeah, we're doing good.
We're doing good.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
It's
All
two
right.
o'clock.
Okay. Because I have a lot to say, but I also don't want to like take up too much of your time. We started at what, 12:30?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have about 5 more minutes, or do we have more than
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
5 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So pretty much, yeah. So what was the question again? I apologize.
No, I mean, so, where are you now with it and what do you hope for next?
So now with it, yeah. So after all, so I've been streaming on Twitch now for 6 years. Um, had some jobs as well on the side on and off that I did while streaming Twitch. Graduated 2018 in marketing at SNHU. Got my degree, all that good stuff. And now where I'm at right now is, I own my own house. I'm live streaming out of it. Um, really like living like my best life right now, honestly.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Made friends from all over the world here on the platform. Um, during my weight loss journey in 2018, because after college, boy, I was fat. You know what I'm saying? I got fat after college, so I was doing weight loss when I graduated, and when I was doing a lot of those, I was when I was doing a lot of those, when I was doing a lot of like going to the gym and working out and all that stuff, I was listening to a lot of like self-growth podcasts, a lot of self-growth audiobooks, and I started geeking out on that a lot. Uh, where I was at maybe 2 years ago or 3 years ago on Twitch was more like comedy oriented. That was definitely more of my focus and shift, which I still like to bust balls and be funny and all that. But now I've definitely taken a shift to be able to kind of integrate my comedy while also talking about self-growth and the importance of believing yourself, the importance of the inner authority, the importance of separating yourself from your ego, love versus fear, all this type of like amazing stuff I've just been consuming lately. um and now where I'm at in my life right now, I'm getting life coached. I quit my job back in February after working there a little over a year, and I felt comfortable after buying my house. I'm getting life coached right now myself, just because I'm so intrigued by the life coaching industry, so intrigued by self growth, excuse me, and personal development, that not only do I want to use my live streams to help heal people and make them laugh and feel comfortable who are going through a lot, because a lot of people on that community are people who are going through a lot of stuff, and my stream and a lot of other people's streams on Twitch are a place for them to just feel comfortable and unwind and just feel good about themselves. But I want to bring it to a whole new level now, though. I see things that are going on in the world that are just bigger than these smaller scale battles that people have within themselves and within one another. And what I want to do now is I want to focus on not necessarily the streaming aspect now, but focus more on my skill set and knowledge and wisdom in life coaching. I'm going to be starting my certification program in July, end of July. I'm really excited for it. I'll be working hand in hand with my life coach, who's been coaching me personally since March, I want to believe. Yeah, March, end of February, beginning of March. And where I'm at now is to not only continue being a content creator online on Twitch and all that, but also to continue making some YouTube videos and blog posts about self-growth and self-development, and then also become a life coach as well. Get my life coaching business started, because I really want to help people. I know with all the things that I went through, that other people are more than capable than being able to be where they want to be as well.
Yeah, for someone, that's gone through a major trauma like you have, I'm curious, you know, how often do you think about that time period in college, and um, if have you learned any coping skills with, I'm sure there are times where you get into a bad headspace of feeling like a piece of, crap or something like that. Any pieces of advice for someone trying to get out of that type of headspace?
It's that healing definitely takes time, and it's about letting go of the story we put in our heads, right? So you mind if I quickly just draw this out for you real quick?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Cool. So with the way like the human mind works in a lot of ways is there's this thing that I do call the mind management journal. I'm just going to write it out for you real quick on pen and paper, and I'll show it to you right over here.
Yeah.
Feeling. Alrighty. So we can call this the mind management journal right here. I've also heard it be called the model of alignment before, thought download. It just depends on who's teaching it to you. But as you can see right over here, right? Let me know if you're having trouble seeing it. My handwriting is very sloppy, so I do apologize.
Yeah.
So you got your circumstance, your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and your results, right?
Yep.
So a circumstance is something always neutral. So I can put over here for the circumstance like false rape accusation, right? So that'll be the circumstance. I don't have to write it down, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep.
Just to speed it up a little bit. So the circumstance would be the false rape accusation, right? The thoughts. So what are the thoughts that are going to follow that, right? Because everything in this universe is neutral on its own. It's our thoughts which turns it into a positive or a negative. So the thoughts that follow by the circumstance of the false rape accusation would be either, it could be negative thoughts. You know what I mean? It could be like, oh, like I'm doomed for life, or like, oh, how dare someone would do that to me, or like, Like, why is the world against me? It could be whatever. And then that would create a feeling, right? Feeling of fear, negativity, sadness, depression, which then will lead to what? An action. That action can look different for anybody. Like for me, the action was um avoiding myself from intimate scenarios for a while because I was just scared of intimacy because of this. So for a while I was just doing that. That was the action, avoidance. You know what I'm saying? Which then led to a result of just suffering, not being truly happy with who I am and not really moving forward in my personal, romantic, and professional endeavors. Fear, essentially, is what it was. So that would be like the unconscious, I guess you could say, thought pattern. So what you want to do in order to change that, the circumstance is still going to be the same. The circumstance always comes from the external point of the world, right? You have your internal world and you have your external world. The circumstance is always what's already happened. Like, I got falsely accused rape. I got falsely accused rape. That happened, right? That's something I can't control. But my thoughts of it could also be like, wow, well, without this, I wouldn't have found Twitch TV. Without this, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have been able to become stronger. Without this, I wouldn't be the me I am today that I'm so grateful and thankful of. So it comes with changing the thoughts. And when you can really write them down and put them on paper and kind of just pinpoint and see where the issues are, you're able to, it all trickles back down. So now with the positive thought loop, what am I going to have? Well, I'm going to have more of a positive feeling in my body on that, right? I'm going to feel grateful for this stuff happening. I'm going to feel love for myself that this happened exactly the way it happened. And with that, I'm going to get an action from that. Well, what's the action going to be? Well, maybe, the action will be, well, since I love myself, I'm confident with myself, I'm going to go out there and not be afraid when I'm going out dating. I'm going to be not afraid when I say my full name to people because I'm afraid they might look me up or something. Because I know this happened. This is something that happened. So my action is now going to be owning it. It's going to be, just being me, being Shawn. You know what I mean? Like that's the action, and the result, more connected with others, more connected with the universe, and yeah, more connected with yourself, most importantly.
How do you forgive the other party? Because for
Yeah.
you, as you look at your life, and I'm sure you've probably been in these headspaces, had this incident not happened, you would not have ever, you might have done another 3 years at Bryant. You would never have gone through the traumas that you went through, the lows that you went through. There's a case to be made, you know, she took, experiences that you might have deserved to have lived through. How have you forgiven all that?
So for me, and part of my self growth journey, at least, so I believe the universe will always test you over and over and over again until you learn that lesson in your life. Forgiveness is a tough one. That was always been hard for me to do, at a young age and whatnot. I didn't learn how to really work through forgiveness until actually my last, I guess you could say, sort of relationship. I don't really want to call it a relationship, but like sort of relationship that I was in with another individual on the platform on Twitch. Um, After that, and after I was healing through that also, um, I learned forgiveness. You know what I mean? It's not like I just forgive her now. I don't just forgive the girl who falsely accused me of rape. I forgive everyone who has, said every negative comment about me on Facebook after the event too. I forgive everybody who, may have bullied me in high school or treated me poorly or created an environment for me to be conditioned in. Like I forgive all, you know what I mean? Because through the training I'm going through right now and what I've learned is that, you know, um, we as our true beings are connected with love. And the more we resist love, the more suffering we'll have in our lives. And I guess it wasn't that specific incident that got me to forgive her. It was a series of other incidents I had with, people just clashing heads and whatnot. Um, Throughout the years where I finally learned like forgiveness, you know what I mean? To a deeper level.
Yeah. Yeah. Sean, we talked about quite a bit. Was there something that we didn't talk about you wanted to?
Um, Trying to think. Is there any sort of like words I could say for anybody here? Yeah. Just one thing that I really like that my coach says often that resonates with me a lot. Um, is well, actually two things, and both of them are not going to be so related, but just two words that I guess or phrases that I really like. A, we are not here on this planet to be loved. We are here to be love. And then a lot of the answers that we search for from the external world or the validation we search from the external world, or it already exists inside of us. We're just using these external forces in order to just create that validation for us. But in reality, that validation already exists within here, right here, within all of us, you know?
Yeah.
And, I definitely would recommend if to anybody out there, if you feel like therapy isn't working for you or something like that, like experiment with all the life coaches that are available out there. Um, because there a lot of times, therapy didn't help me see the world the way I do now until I picked up coaching. Like I love my therapists for who they are. They're great. They helped treat certain things, but it's about really getting in touch with my inner self was through coaching. And if it wasn't for coaching, I wouldn't be here right now talking about this, especially on a platform where I know the AB community is listening as well. Like this was definitely terrifying for me, but at the same time, it's like I just thought about it. Well, I'm like, well, you know what? At the end of the day, there's nothing to be terrified because I did nothing wrong at the end of the day, and I'm just here to just want to help make people better and make people grow.
And I think, I mean, obviously the title of this podcast is going to get some looks, but I mean, I think both of us are on you know, the side that, accusers need to be heard. But there's also a side, and it's a small minority of, false accusations as well. And, we
Absolutely,
have to, that's the bias in, however this podcast is titled and people having immediately negative reactions is a problem, right?
it is.
It's not acknowledging the other side of, and obviously rape is awful, and and we
It
both
is.
recognize that, and neither of us are ever gonna you know say otherwise, for anybody that's been sexually assaulted or raped, you know
It's a very
um
yeah, no, of course not. Like
yeah,
I know people who have been, like
yeah,
that are close to me, so I get it. I
yeah,
get it as well from their side 100%. It's very sensitive.
yeah. And so, you know but I think from my perspective, Sean, just I just want to acknowledge you because hearing you have to go, I mean, I saw this from a little bit, and I had kind of already had forgotten about all this, when we reconnected, and you had to remind me that you had gone through it. um and but just hearing the story and how much trauma that must have been as a 20-year-old, and seeing the way that you've bounced back over the years, and are now trying to help other people through the wisdom you're gaining. That's just terrific, and you're a strong individual. So I just want to acknowledge that. And I think for anybody that wants to follow you, do you want to just let them know how they can do so?
Yeah. Also, thank you, Arnav. That really meant a lot to me, for real, man. That really means a lot to me, man. I'm
Yeah.
really glad that we've been able to reconnect over the last year, for real.
Yeah. Same here.
Um, yeah. So, it's at Sheshn94. You can find me SHESH Sheshn94. You can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Snapchat, and that's about it. Yeah. Oh, and then
Cool.
YouTube as well. And then YouTube as well.
Cool.
I plan on having a lot more self-growth content coming up on my YouTube channel soon. And then Sheshn94.com if you want to read some blogs that I wrote as well.
Yeah.
So if you just type in Sheshn94 on Google, you'll find all of it. So
And what is it? Every Thursday you have a meditation at 7?
yeah, so far
Okay.
it's been a little bit more inconsistent, but I have
Okay.
I have a Discord as well.
Yeah.
And then usually it's every Thursday. I'll hold a meditation group with anyone who's down to join on my Discord server. Some Thursdays I've had to cancel recently just due to outside conflicting plans and whatnot, but it's something that we do just for fun. It's something we do for fun, and then after the meditations we have some conversation that hit below the surface level, whether it's stuff that we're going through or stuff that we're thinking about. And I really do enjoy going to Adam's sessions that he's been doing as well, and it's awesome seeing you there every other Tuesday. Those have been really great, and I still plan to continue to go to those as well.
Same here. Yeah.
Nice.
Well, Shawn, I just want to thank you for being on. And best of luck with everything, and anybody that wants to follow, self growth and uh like, ideas and thoughts, definitely Shawn's a great resource.
Hey, thank you so much, Arnav. And may I add one more thing, by the way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Going back to again about you know the falsely accused rape side and the side that has been raped or anything like that. Same thing also. And I think this is important to think about for everybody. Same thing goes for manipulation as well. People have been manipulated versus manipulators, abusers, people who abuse others versus abusees, any sort of that dynamic. Um, in my honest opinion about all that, together as people, we can, or not together, say people can go back and forth on Twitter and social media and fight all they want. But at the end of the day, once people really truly discover their own insecurities within them and get in true touch with being comfortable with their full self, once we have a world that's like that, I won't see any, I feel like there won't be any sort of harm done to others on this world. I really am a true believer of that. Once you're, because all of it at the end of the day drives off insecurity and it drives off fear, and then once we're able to just recognize the fear and just be comfortable with who we are as people, at the end of the day, we're one, man. We're one.
Yeah.
It's only egos, beliefs, and fears that separate us together. And hopefully we can live in a world one day where it's like that. Because, as people, we definitely deserve that.
Yeah. It's a great way to end. Thank you, Shawn.
Absolutely. Much love to you, Arnav. Thank you so much for having me on, brother.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you.